Prompt number 1 is, I feel understood and seen by my partner when.
There are sometimes like my truth doesn't have to be your truth, but you listen to my truth without trying to like make me see to your way. You just, okay, I hear you. I get what you mean. I may not fully understand. Like I may not fully know the experience, but you don't try to make me wrong.
Prompt number 2 is, I feel misunderstood and unseen by my partner when. And the third prompt is, how can I share the first one with gratitude and the second one with non-accusatory compassion?
So when do you feel understood and seen by me?
When you share insight that's a hard truth, but do it without accusatory judgment or stank.
Okay.
And my example here was the other day when I was recording a video to be on a game show. And I finished, and you're like, that wasn't very good. But you didn't say it in a way that was like, that sucked, or you can't do that, or anything. It was, you just shared it in a way that it was vulnerable in some ways, right? Because I'm recording myself, I'm about to put myself out there, and you're like, that's not good enough. But it wasn't judgmental, but it brought judgment, and the judgment was okay. The critique was really important. And you did it in such a way that I was like, okay, I ran something by you and I tried it again. And that's the kind of thing that would have been really easy to say, I'm going to go in the other room and do. But I felt comfortable enough in general with you where I didn't have to go in the other room. I'm just going to do this right here with you. And if it's not, you shared with me that it wasn't good enough. Anyway, the short and long of that is a day or two later, I got a phone call from the game show saying they wanted to have an interview with me. So clearly, you understood and saw me and suggested that and basically pushed me to be a little bit better.
Aww.
Yeah, it's just without judgment, because there's so many opportunities, anyway, that was it.
Yeah, I was sitting right there doing my walk, and I heard you record, and I was like, I know you. Like, you have more exciting stories than that, like what you were trying to convey to the game show. And I was like, babe, I listened and I waited for you to finish. And then I was like, I think you should actually tell the other story that's more exciting. So I'm glad you got a call.
When do you feel understood and seen by me?
So what I wrote was...
What are it? Can we please jump to prompt number 2 where I can say where I don't feel seen or understood?
Actually, I did like when you validate my experiences. There are sometimes like my truth doesn't have to be your truth, but you listen to my truth without trying to like make me see to your way. You just, okay, I hear you. I get what you mean. I may not fully understand. Like I may not fully know the experience, but you don't try to make me wrong. So,
is there an example that you have?
There is nothing about that I've done in the past that you judge. Like you don't judge my past mistakes, and I have them, or anything that I've done in the past. So I don't feel like I ever, when I bring something up from my past that I've probably sometimes not even shared, it's just a memory that comes up. Like I know that I can share that memory as it comes up, or something that it's something silly or stupid that I did in my past, and you're just gonna like laugh.
Got it.
So.
Okay.
I would say that's an example.
Then do you want to just jump straight into when you feel misunderstood or unseen by me?
Yes. I actually just felt misunderstood and seen by you a couple minutes ago. And I was really kind of like annoyed with you. And it's small, but it was about the pen. So my pen wasn't working and I had to go get a pen. And then I brought another pen, and there was just like something like, what do you call this?
I don't know, the writing part?
The writing part was a little like not, it was kind of broken.
It didn't come out as far as you expected it to.
Correct. And I was like, I've seen enough pens in my life. Like something is wrong with this pen. And I looked at you and I said, babe, I think this pen is broken. And what was your answer to that?
It's like I said, it's not broken. It just doesn't come out all the way.
No, you
And
said
it's
that's
it's never going to.
No,
come
you
out
said
all the way.
that's the way it is. That's the way the pen is. I was like, actually, I don't think that that's the way the pen is. I think there's something wrong. And then I was like, actually, I feel like this pen, there's something wrong with this pen. And then you had an explanation when I kept.
Which is that the pen was actually broken. And I fixed the pen, and in the process of fixing the pen, the tip of the writing part comes out. It's actually, in reality, it's got to be a millimeter less coming out than normal, but it's noticeable. And I didn't, which is funny, because even when I was thinking about that, when you were like, this pen is broken, I was like, well, it's not actually broken. I actually made it work properly, but I even felt a little bit like, why is she complaining about the pen that I fixed?
All I needed was you.
I was being a real adult in that situation.
All I needed for you was like, yeah, the pen. Like I just knew that something was wrong with the pen, and all I needed was like, yeah, the pen was broken a week ago, and I fixed it. Okay. But you made it seem like I was crazy for thinking that there was something wrong with the pen.
The pen writes perfectly fine. It just looks like. It looks like
something is wrong.
Yeah, it's like it just looks a little sad, but literally, I think it's a millimeter difference. If it had been 1 millimeter different, you never would have said anything.
But there is a difference,
yes,
and I think like what I'm saying to you is that when you do small shit like that, it makes me feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, or like I'm crazy.
I'm gonna just show this for people who are watching. There's the millimeter. You can see it. Look. Doop, 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 doop.
But in life, there are things like that.
That's a bigger thing. Whereas if you're confused and I don't acknowledge your confusion or I don't corroborate your experience, it's the opposite of what you said before.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which is why you couldn't think of any example of when you feel heard and seen, because you're like, the way to feel heard and seen is if you had done this thing with the pen the way I'd wanted to, then I would have felt heard and seen.
But that's one of like the small things. I think I wrote something else. There's sometimes when I come to you and I'm like completely overwhelmed and I don't know what to do with my business or with a specific like situation. But in this moment, I'm going to add like my business. I'm like, I don't know which direction to take. I don't know which marketing way to go. And like, I'm already overwhelmed. And sometimes I just need you to listen and you offer me like another 10 things of marketing to do. And I'm just like, I'm already overwhelmed. And now you have added another list of 10 things that I need to do. And I'm just like, oh God, like I do not feel like seen and understood by you, because what I need you to, like in that moment, I'm not coming to you for solutions. The solutions are there. They're on YouTube. Like I know them, there's so much free information today. There's a lot of information overload. So I already know these things. Like I just need you to listen and not give me advice on things that I need to do.
I think for insight on that particular point, we are going to put a YouTube link in the show notes for the wonderful and insightful video about the woman with a nail in her forehead. For anyone who has not seen it yet, it's going to need to make it to the top of your to-watch list on YouTube.
Yes, so sometimes when I share my overwhelmedness,
even if it is a nail in your forehead, you are not asking me about whether or not you should take the nail out of your forehead.
I'm just telling you it's there. So
okay,
that's my.
Then for the next one is, how can you share the first one with gratitude and the second one with non-accusatory compassion with your partner?
I feel like I just did that.
I wrote the exact same thing. just by putting it down on paper and then sharing it. Now, I also see how that could easily be triggering for a lot of people, particularly if that's an area where there's still conflict. Even like going back with the pen, because I kind of love I love this. It's such a good small thing that if it were a bigger thing, it would be understandable. But the small things also impact our relationship in ways that just kind of like creep in, Like I was feeling kind of happy about the way that I cleverly figured out how to save this pen from the garbage can. I was like, I am being an environmentalist by fixing this pen instead of throwing it away. Yay me. And then your kind of critique of it was like, well, if I tell you that, like, are you going to criticize my work or whatever? So it just became this whole ridiculous story in my head. And that doesn't necessarily even come from nowhere. There are times where I'll fix something or I'll do something and I'll be like, oh, I feel very good about that. And you'll be like, that's stupid, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm being what I was happy about, you're now criticizing. And so this was not in a vacuum that I didn't say something, that was, I feel like so few things in our relationship or any relationship are in a vacuum. They're connected. And so I'm thrilled that this pen story came up because I actually want to actually look and see where these other small things can then ultimately play into our lives in ways that create some like underlying discontentment.
So I am nervous to hear when you don't feel understood. Did you share? You didn't share.
Oh, I did. I didn't share yet. You're right. I was ready to move on. I was like, well.
Ooh, I was ready to miss the bullet.
And this was basically the opposite of what I said before, which is that when you do share, but you do it with like real self-righteousness.
I know that.
You can. And when there's like criticism or trying to make me wrong. So recently I had an issue, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was an issue with one of the kids or something. And I wanted to talk through something with you. And you're like, that's a bad idea. I was like, well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I need to kind of work through this. And you kind of kept being like, that's a bad idea. And at the end of that whole thing, like I actually needed to go and have that conversation anyway. But I didn't get the sort of the benefit of really being able to workshop with it because you were already criticizing even my doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so I can see some of the positive in that for me, which is that I went ahead and did it anyways, and without your blessing, as it were. And I didn't need your blessing; it's my life, But so there was a benefit to me in bringing in kind of overcoming that. But I think I also could have done better in that if I had actually really had a partner to be like, you know what, this is something I need to do. And I need you to help me do it the best that I can do it, not tell me it's a bad idea and therefore kind of shut me down, or not be my partner in actually helping me make the best mistake possible.
Yeah.
Right.
I hear that. I think what happened, and I of course, like there are things like we can share on air because the kids are not here. I think what happened was like, to me, that specific situation was like very triggering for me. And so it was like a yes or a complete no. Like there wasn't a gray like area where I was like compassionate about the situation. I was like, it's a definitely no, In that situation, it's like I came with it with my own heart and my own trauma, So I wasn't even speaking from like what was best for you. It was like I was speaking from like my own pain, and it's not like I know right now as an adult when I'm speaking from my own pain rather than like being open to like what you are going through without me bringing my own shit into it. Right. So
yeah.
I hope like I don't bring my own shit to your situation, but sometimes it's
bound
to happen.
And you will, and I will too. I think that in just even being able to share this, I feel fortunate that we also have this, that we create the space. I should also say that creating this space within the podcast where we're sharing this is that it is actually a challenge. Like a lot of times the days that we record, are challenging. And you said this, and I don't remember if you said it on the air before, but one of the best things we are doing for our relationship is the podcast, because we promised ourselves that for at least 100 episodes, we are showing up and doing this every single week. And that promise is a commitment that even if, well, first of all, it's brought up some challenges for you, like, oh, this is actually, it's hard, because we're not just getting here and say, hey, we're going to tell you about our business, or it's not a podcast about how to market your drop shipment thing or whatever. This is a really, we actually have to work through and process stuff
with people as we're processing it. Yeah. And that is not easy.
But setting aside this time where we say we do this has been really good. And I think that's one of the things that's actually also helped with our creating of the Lover's Journal, is that by creating this space that we basically, we promise that we do it. And we've missed a few weeks, but we've also caught up. We've never missed a week publishing a podcast since we launched over a year ago. So we banked up a few so we could take a couple weeks off, things like that, but we've never missed one. And what that's done is basically means we actually have to get in and communicate. And so for week 6, this space to share this, I know is going to benefit our relationship even more moving forward.
Yeah, I'm thinking back for when we started the podcast, and thinking about the commitment that we made was that we are going to show up and not prepare for the podcast and just show up with what's going on, And I was like, wait, are we going to have enough topics to share? But then I was like, life keeps happening.
Yeah. It turns out the human condition is something that people talk about and write about for millennia.
Yeah. So I was like, if life keeps happening, then we're not actually ever going to run out of topics, because we're going to share what's going on and the feelings that, that we're experiencing. And so last week we shared about our engagement and how happy we are. And a week later, here we are. Sharing about being overwhelmed.
And how we support each other and hear each other and how we don't.
Yeah.
So if you are following along and doing the Lover's Journal, or if you have any questions, thoughts, insight, comments, concerns, always reach out. info@loversunlimited.co is the new email address. Check out the new website, loversunlimited.co or theloversjournal.com. And we'll be really excited to see you and hear from you next week.